I was excited to finally take a break from work and spend some quality time with my partner in a cosy little cottage that we found on Air BnB. The hosts seemed friendly and welcoming when we arrived, but as we settled in, something just didn't feel right. The decor of the place didn't help matters. It was outdated and gave off a strange vibe. I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. My partner didn't seem to notice anything unusual, but I couldn't help but feel uneasy. As the night wore on, I started to hear strange noises coming from the walls downstairs. At first I thought it was just the old house creaking, but the sounds became more pronounced and unsettling. It sounded like someone was walking around in the room above us. I was so uncomfortable and kept jumping up to go investigate, but could sense my partner becoming frustrated, assuring me it was just the old house making noises we weren't familiar with. That night I tried to ignore it, to tell myself I was being stupid and just to fall asleep, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were not alone in the cottage. I honestly feel like someone was watching us. I gently tried to wake my partner up, hoping to maybe just leave right away, but they were out cold, and now I was worried that I was just being overly anxious and that I might ruin the trip somehow. The next morning things were a bit awkward. Neither of us had slept. I was feeling kind of embarrassed and guilty for wanting to leave, while I could sense my partner was frustrated at my neurosis. Anyway, we got out of there in a hurry, stuffing clothes into a bag and not saying much. My partner told me it's fine and not to worry, but I couldn't seem to chill and let it go. It wasn't until we were back on the road that I realised I still had the keys in my pocket and needed to go back. Just what we needed. My partner pulled a U-turn in a frosty silence. When we got back to the cottage, I went to post the keys through the letterbox, but as I approached the door I heard voices coming from inside. Two voices, muffled but raised, like there was an argument happening round the back of the house. I don't know why I didn't just post the keys through the slot and leave. I guess I was somehow hoping to find an answer for all the weird noises we'd been hearing. So I went round the back to where the voices were coming from, and through the kitchen window I saw two people inside the house, and they seemed to be arguing like hell. I expected it to be the host talking to someone, but it was two men, and I didn't recognise either to be the host we'd met. Had these two men been in the property the whole time? Is that what we'd been hearing? What was their plan? I felt my stomach sink, and panic took over as I decided to slink back round the front and leave the keys at the front door before anyone saw me. I got back in the car, drenched in cold sweat, demanding my partner step on the gas and get us out of here, explaining what I'd seen. After a while on the road, shifting around uncomfortably, frustrated at how our trip had turned out, I felt something in my pocket. The keys. I hadn't posted them back through the letterbox. I texted the host to say I'd mail back the keys and to explain what had happened. He said that nobody else was booked in after us and had no idea who else would be out there. I still don't know what was going on there, but somehow it feels lucky that we decided to leave when we did. I don't know who those two men could have been or how they got in there, but they did not look friendly. A few months ago, as I was planning my weekend getaway, I stumbled upon a charming Airbnb that seemed perfect for what I had in mind. The reviews left by previous guests were all positive. However, there was something about the host, Tim, that made me feel creeped out, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Upon my arrival, Tim greeted me warmly and showed me around the apartment. Everything seemed clean and well maintained, and I settled in quickly. However, as the night went on, I became increasingly aware of strange shuffling sounds outside my door. I guessed maybe it was the host checking in on me, but when I opened the door, there was no one to be seen. I brushed it off as my imagination and went back to bed, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. The next night I was jolted awake by a loud banging on the walls. It sounded like someone was trying to break in, and my heart took off with fear. I tried calling Tim, but he didn't answer. Too scared to investigate, I locked myself in the room and waited for it to pass. Eventually the noises stopped, but I was left feeling shaken up and weirdly vulnerable. In the morning, I discovered that the front door had been left unlocked and some of my stuff was missing. I immediately called the police and reported the break-in. They found signs of forced entry and questioned him, but he had an alibi and was cleared of any involvement. Despite the police's findings, I couldn't shake the feeling that the host had something to do with it. I decided to cut my trip short and checked out of the Air BnB. The experience left me feeling violated and paranoid. I really felt that the host had been watching me the entire time. I try to be way more thorough now when I'm researching places to stay. This happened to me a couple of years back. I was so excited to go for a getaway with my friends, and we found the perfect Airbnb. It was a cosy little cabin in the woods with a hot tub and a fireplace. The host seemed nice enough and we settled in quickly. However, as the night fell, things started to get creepy. We heard strange noises outside, like footsteps and whispering. But of course, forests do come with their own particular set of noises, so we tried to ignore it, and chalked it up to animals in the woods and the sounds of nature. Then about an hour or so later, we noticed that some of our things were going missing. My friend's phone charger and toothbrush, and a baseball cap I had definitely left on the table. It was enough to make us feel creeped out, to say the least. We locked our doors and windows, and nothing else seemed to go missing, and we started doubting ourselves, even though I was certain about my hat at the very least. The next night, we were all sitting around the fireplace when we heard a loud banging on the door. I got up to answer, but before I got there the banging got so forceful that we thought it was going to break down. I turned to look at my friends and they all shook their heads, saying, "No, don't answer it." I quickly slid the bolt closed, then darted back and huddled with my friends as the banging and scratching continued. Sometimes it would stop, then start up again at a window, as if something or someone was circling the house looking for weak spots. We were completely panicking, constantly on the verge of screaming, and then it just stopped. We were too scared to investigate and just stayed close together in the room until morning. When we finally felt brave enough to go outside in the morning, we found scratch marks on the door and on the outer sills of the windows, as if something with claws had been standing up on its hind legs trying to get in. Okay, so we could maybe explain the noises away as the work of some curious animal who had just as much right as we did to be in the woods. But what about all the stuff that went missing? What use would a bear have for a phone charger or toothbrush? To us, the two things had to be connected, but we couldn't find any way to explain any of it. We called the host and told her what happened. She said she'd never heard of any animals coming close to the property before, but that she was coming over to check it out. The whole thing had just made us paranoid and unsettled, so we just decided to cut the break short and get out early, feeling weirdly lucky to get out of there alive. We could have been overreacting, but I think it's important to trust your instincts in those kinds of situations.